Welcome back to Ghost Pirate Entertainment. I'm your host, Kanan Becker, and today we do another deep dive into Tubi. And let's get to the list. Sunrise is a 2024 horror movie directed by Andrew Baird from a screenplay by Ronan Blaney. It stars Guy Pearce, Alex Pettyfer, and Crystal Yu. A man roams the land as a creature of the night as he comes to terms with the tragic loss of his family at the hands of a brutal demigod.
Do you drink human blood?
You offering?
This is a very interesting movie. It was one that caught my attention at the beginning of the year. I was hoping it would get released in theaters. I don't think it did. If it did, it was a very limited release. But I thought from the trailer at that point, and I did talk about it in my most anticipated horror movies coming this year, that it had potential. Like, it looked cool. It had that folk horror-ish type of thing, but it's done in the modern day. So it is a folk horror meets modern day kind of thing going on. And the real standout of this is Guy Pearce, of course. I mean, the guy is brilliant. I really appreciate him in just about everything I've ever seen him do. And he fully commits once again to this character. And he just plays a villain so well. He's this surly, racist, hateful, just evil man in this movie, and it's really interesting, but also appalling at times. So if you're someone that's put off too much by vulgar language, racist terms, just hateful speech and hateful behaviors by your villains or whatever, if that just rubs you the wrong way, I get it. This might not be for you, but I do think this movie is entertaining. It's not a perfect movie by any means, but it does go in some interesting directions. There's a great mystery about it and intrigue as you just follow this whole story, trying to figure out who is who plays what role, and what is actually going on here. I think it's a really solid movie that's definitely worth your time.
The camera doesn't lie.
Butterfly Kisses is a 2018 found footage horror movie directed by Eric Christopher Myers. It stars Rachel Arminger, Reed DeLisle, and Matt Lake. It's about a filmmaker who discovers a box of videotapes depicting two students' disturbing film project featuring a local horror legend.
There's absolutely no evidence to suggest that somebody is directing them.
We have the possibility that this whole thing is real, and we have the possibility that this whole thing is a largely plausible hoax.
Just a few days ago, I released my 10 best found footage horror movie video, and this was one that just barely missed out. I was back and forth on if it should go on or something else. This is just a really good found footage movie that really flies under the radar. And it's just very interesting and unique because it's basically a documentary about a guy who is trying to make a documentary or a movie or whatever out of this footage he finds. And that just gives it this unique kind of meta twist about it, which really adds to the believability of it. But it goes in some really interesting directions, taking a lot of twists and turns along the way. This is a great little movie. And if you're a fan of found footage horror movies, this is an absolute must see. Don't Breathe is a 2016 horror movie directed by Fede Alvarez and produced by Sam Raimi. It stars Jane Levy, Dylan Minnette, and Stephen Lang. The story focuses on three friends who get trapped inside of a blind man's house while breaking into it.
Who's there?
Stay right there.
I'm gonna assume that the majority of you guys out there have seen this movie, and if you're like me, you think it's a badass, twisted movie. But I had to mention it because it's available on Tubi, and so for anyone out there that haven't seen this yet, This is as good of a time as any because it's free right now on Tubi. It's a fucked up psychological horror thriller that goes in some wild directions, definitely with some surprises along the way, goes in directions that, at least for me, caught me completely off guard. But if you like them dark and uncomfortable, this is one you have to see.
Bury it in the earth and join us in the skies.
Starry Eyes is a 2014 horror movie, written and directed by Kevin Kolch and Dennis Widmeyer. It stars Alex Esso, Amanda Fuller, and Noah Segan. A hopeful young starlet uncovers the sinister origins of the Hollywood elite and enters into a deadly agreement in exchange for fame and fortune.
Hello, Sarah. We'd like to see you again. And Sarah, this will be different.
Man, I love this movie. For one, Alex Esso gives one hell of a performance in it, but it's just so uncomfortable. It gets really dark, it gets gory, it gets graphic, it gets gross. It does all these different things that I really want in my gritty, low budget or lower budget horror movies. On top of that, it's surprising. It does some things that you just don't normally see movies do. It makes some choices that may not be for everyone, but at least for me, I love when things go in different directions than what we normally see, because everything starts to get stale and boring if it just feels like it's going to do a rinse repeat and like you're always going to be able to predict and know what's going to happen next. It's creepy and moody and disturbing, and definitely one you need to see.
They want you to know they're there. Bug.
Bug is a 2006 psychological thriller, directed by William Friedkin and written by Tracy Letts. It stars Ashley Judd, Michael Shannon, and Harry Connick Jr. An unhinged war veteran holds up with a lonely woman in a rundown Oklahoma motel, and the lines between reality and delusion become blurred as they discover a bug infestation.
What is that?
Hey, you see it? It's a bug.
Man, this movie is dark and gritty and really disturbing on like a real world kind of level. It's not supernatural. It's not necessarily one of those. So, and this is not a fun movie. So take my warning now. If you're more of someone that enjoys the fun horror movies, this one's probably not for you, because it gets really bleak and depressing and just goes into that side of the horror world. It's one of those one-time watch only kind of movies, but if you like them dirty and uncomfortable and just honestly make your skin crawl, then you absolutely should put this one on your list.
Stop running away!
Incident in a Ghostland is a 2018 horror movie, written and directed by Pasquale Luger. It stars Taylor Hickson, Emily Jones, and Crystal Reed. 16 years after a traumatic event, a mother and two daughters reunite at the house where it happened. But soon, their reunion starts to take a bizarre turn.
Some guy's been breaking into people's homes, murdering the parents, and sparing the daughters.
First off, every time I talk about this movie on here, I get a bunch of people commenting about the actress in this who got injured in the movie. I'm well aware. I get that. It's horrible. It's sad. But I personally don't think that that is any reason to not appreciate this movie and enjoy this movie. I'm not condoning anything that happened on set, what their safety standards were, or any of that. I just am appreciating it and think you should as well for the art that it is. So with that being said, this is one of my favorite hidden gem horror movies out there. It's one that still just not enough people know about and not enough people have seen, but it is truly twisted. It is weird. It's so mysterious. It's one of those movies that the less you know about it, the better. And so I'm not going to tell you much, and it's just a well-performed movie. It's well-directed, it's well-written, it's interesting, it's complicated and layered, and a really intense, disturbing movie, and one that I highly, highly recommend.
Are you willing to die for this?
The Final Cut is a 2004 sci-fi thriller. Written and directed by Omar Naim, it stars Robin Williams, Jim Caviezel, and Mira Sorvino. Set in a world with memory recording implants, Alan Hackman is a cutter, someone with the power of final edit over people's recorded histories. But his latest assignment is one that puts him in danger.
Have you ever been to a remembering?
It's a strange profession you have, isn't it, Alan? You take people's lives, make lies out of them.
Deletion confirmed.
This is a movie that has made me scratch my head for so many years now, because it's probably my favorite Robin Williams movie. It's definitely up there anyway. And it's fun, it's exciting, it's intense, it's creepy, it's sci-fi and thrilling with some horror-ish moments in it. And yet, you just never, ever hear this movie mentioned. And I don't know why, especially in the sci-fi circles. I get it if it's not in the horror circles, it's not really a horror movie, it's more of a thriller, but it is definitely a sci-fi movie, and yet I just don't hear people talk about it, and I don't really know why. And so because of that, I have to mention it from time to time, because I want more people to appreciate this, because it's just such a unique sci-fi thriller that goes in a lot of interesting directions. It has this real whodunit, neo-noir feel about it, which I love, but on top of that, it is very, very sci-fi. So if you've never seen this, do yourself a favor and give it a look.
Oh my God.
What did you do?
The Girl with All the Gifts is a 2016 British sci-fi horror movie. Written and directed by Colm McCarthy, it stars Gemma Arterton, Paddy Considine, and Sienna Nanua. The story takes place in a dystopian future, following a breakdown of society after most of humanity is wiped out by a fungal infection, focusing on a special young girl named Milani.
You just touched her. Watch.
No, please, don't do that. They're only children.
So like a lot of you guys, I am tired of zombie movies, apocalyptic zombie movies especially. It's just, they're done to death, and a lot of them are just not bringing anything special or unique to the table. And there are elements of Last of Us in this as well that, you know, I get if some people, you know, point that out. But I think there's enough here, especially with some of the twists and turns that this takes, that it's worth seeing. On top of that, it's really well done. This isn't a low budget, you know, cutting corners kind of movie by any means. Like, they go for it. It's great acting, directing, the cinematography, the sets, the costumes, everything is really well put together. And so I think it's very interesting that this movie doesn't get the recognition that it deserves. And I think it's just gotta be because of that, because most people are just sick of the zombie genre. But like I said, this has enough unique things about it and goes in enough interesting directions that I think it's definitely one that you should give a look. So get on it and check this one out.
There's something following us.
Underwater is a 2020 sci-fi horror movie. Directed by William Eubank, it stars Kristen Stewart, Vincent Castle, and Jessica Henwick. A crew of oceanic researchers working for a deep-sea drilling company try to get to safety after a mysterious earthquake devastates their deep water facility. If you're someone that watches basically every video I drop, then you've probably heard me talk about this. But I think it's a movie that just criminally flies under the radar still. And I don't know exactly why that is. I don't know if it's because a lot of people just still can't get behind Kristen Stewart. I don't know if it just doesn't look interesting to them based on the trailer. I really don't know, because to me anyway, this is my favorite sci-fi horror movie in recent memory. It came out in 2020, and unfortunately it got screwed over by the pandemic somewhat, and its theatrical run was cut short, and then it just went to streaming, and it just seemed to basically disappear. Every time I talk about it on here, I get a number of people that say, oh yeah, I love that movie, but I just don't hear it talked about like you would think a movie on this scale would be, because it's claustrophobic, it's surprising, it's extremely well performed. The costume designs, set designs, everything are just expertly executed. And it goes in some wild directions, and I don't want to spoil those because they're super important to your enjoyment of this movie. But trust me when I say, if you've yet to have this movie spoiled for you, you will be surprised. It does some things that I don't think you'll see coming. But I really think it's a truly special sci-fi horror movie that you're honestly doing an injustice to yourself if you have yet to see. Bloody Hell is a 2020 Australian comedy horror movie, directed by Alistair Grierson and written by Robert Benjamin. It stars Ben O'Toole, Carolyn Craig, and Matthew Sutherland. It tells the story of a man with a mysterious past who flees from his homeland to escape his own personal hell, only to unknowingly experience something even more sinister and hellish.
Don't let them kill you.
Okay, listen to me when I say this. If you're a fan of comedy horror movies, you really need to see this movie. It's truly one of my favorite discoveries since starting this channel. It's one of those really small, flying under the radar indie horror movies, and especially from Australia, that just didn't get a lot of play or love over here. But I'm telling you, it is super funny, it's fun, it's gory, it's campy, it's original and unique. The main character, he's phenomenal in it. You just love him. He's got a little bit of ash to him, just an absolute badass. Just everything about this movie kept surprising me over and over, and just in great ways. I just think it's a blast. It's entertaining and just a great time, and a perfect pick for this Saturday night. So do yourself a favor this weekend, guys. Pick one of the movies off of this list, grab your popcorn and your candy, and enjoy! And I want to give a huge, massive, enormous thank you to the Ghost Pirate crew, to you guys over on Patreon, and to the channel members over here. You guys mean the world to me. And if you would like to help support this channel over on Patreon, there's a link down in the description. Or if you want to become a channel member and help support the channel that way, there's a button right down there that says join. But like always, thank you so much for watching. Please crush that like button. And remember, guys, horror can be fun! And if you enjoyed this, click right here to watch me talk about 10 more movies that I think you'll enjoy. And I'll see you guys next time!